Alright guys, welcome here. We are the Fantasy Football Forecasters. Kicking things off for the regular season week 1. We have just a couple of news stories we want to touch base on, and then we're going to start with our fantasy starts and sixth for week 1. Alright. Starting off this week, one of the hot stories is Nick Foles will be starting quarterback for the Eagles versus the Falcons. I know I'm nervous. Most Eagles fans probably aren't nervous because Nick Foles did win the Super Bowl. I get it, but let's be honest. We've seen quarterbacks before have that miraculous run and then end up choking the season away. When we look at Nick Foles' numbers in preseason, they have, as far as his passer completion percentage goes, they have not been bad, but he has how many turnovers? 5, 6 turnovers?
Oh, he looked terrible.
That's kind of concerning because let's be honest, this Falcons defense is not terrible. This Falcons defense is very opportunistic in that regard. So if Nick Foles comes out there and starts giving the ball over, this could be a very long game. So for me, if I'm an Eagles fan, I want Carson Wentz back on the field as soon as possible, but that remains to be seen as far as his health goes. A lot of people were talking about a week 1 start. Obviously, that's not the issue. So for me, it'll be something to watch.
Yep, and that's because you're not an Eagles fan. Nick Foles isn't your hero. You didn't get your tattoo. What's the big one that Nick Foles won? That it has a good look. It has a big penis or something.
What?
I kid you not. That was one of the big things in Philly last year. Look it up.
What are you searching?
Right.
Well, I watch NFL memes, and they're terrible most of the time. So anyway, so I'll jump into my biggest story of the week. Jerick McKinnon looked like he was going to be back for the season, and then in practice this week he tore his ACL. He did that on Saturday. They announced on Sunday, well, late Saturday night, that he's out for the season, and that's a disappointment for me. He finally was getting a chance. He got a pretty big chance in Vikings. He did pretty good last year, although he was switching with Latavius Murray, so it wasn't every week. This was the time that he was going to be in every game. He got a big contract. This chance, and I'm a Jerick McKinnon fan, as you can tell, and this one hurts a little bit because I wanted to see him succeed. So that takes away something there for the 49ers. I guess the upsides for a couple players there. If you could get Matt Breida in a draft or off free agency, if you didn't get drafted in your league, he might be a good one to replace McKinnon himself. Although it is being announced at this point that Alfred Morris is actually going to be the starter down there. Obviously, against Minnesota week 1, I probably wouldn't touch any of them, but it might be a nice adds to your fantasy team to look to see if either of them are out there and add them this week. Just for future.
All right, and then the third biggest news story, which might have actually been the biggest news story of the week, is the Chicago Bears. Of all teams, no one even knew they were even in the running for it. It was middle between the Packers, the Jets, and all so on and so forth. The Browns was in there. But the Bears have traded for Khalil Mack. And I don't know how he'll be in week 1. I don't know if they'll want him to kind of get thrown in there right away with a completely new system. But the Bears did give up 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a 6th-round pick. However, they do get a 2nd-round pick and a conditional 5th back out of that. But that should really add to the Chicago Bears defense that I do believe I said was a defense to look at last week.
Insider information.
Right.
I mean, granted, I did also say that I wouldn't start him every week, but I still wouldn't. I mean, I don't know that Khalil Mack's going to bring that much to the table, but especially week 1 against the Packers, it's not a match that you really still think would be a great one because Rodgers still does have his numbers against Bears. So, speaking of Rodgers, I think this actually is a great segue into our starts and sits this week.
Did you put Rodgers as your start of the week?
I did not. Starts and sits this week. We're all going to each week have different positions. I am getting quarterbacks since I didn't really get to talk about quarterbacks in you guys' first video. I have a prop here for my.
Oh my goodness.
So, I know I'm not on the video right now,
He doesn't want to show you guys himself naked.
but my must start this week. I'm wearing AJ Green today because I think Andy Dalton is a must start against the Indianapolis Colts. This is a Colts defense that we saw them last year. They struggled with the pass. They struggled with everything. They just were not a team that you really want to mess with. They probably have gotten a little better. It's going to take time to see if the draft and the free agency, which they didn't make much moves in the free agency, to see if they pan out. But yes, I'm representing Bengals today. But I say Andy Dalton is your must start of the week. On the flip side, I'm actually staying in the AFC North. My apologies. I'm staying in the AFC North. And my sit is Joe Flacco. Now, this is probably going to blow everyone's mind at this table because they are playing the Buffalo Bills. However, last year, you didn't really have to.
Well, you said to. I was just trying to add to the video.
Thank you. Last year, the Buffalo Bills was the number 5 ranked pass defense in fantasy. They shut down pass like the quarterbacks single-handedly, and that's including going against Tom Brady twice. We'll just throw out the Dolphins and the Jets. Maybe that's what helped as well. But I think that's very telling, especially since Joe Flacco has not been a fantasy relevant quarterback lately. And I know a lot of people actually go by playing the matchups. And I think this is a trap.
Yep. So I'm going to kick that in, and I'm going to stick in the AFC East/North, as Bryn stated.
Sorry, it's AFC North.
It's AFC. So I'm going to actually stick with the same game, and surprisingly, I'm going to stick with the same offense for my start of the week, which would be Alex Collins for the Ravens. Now, with him saying right there that the Bills had a top 5 pass defense, they had the almost worst Russian defense in the league at 29th. Alex Collins is the starter there. Buck Allen did not beat him out for it in the preseason, clearly.
And Kenneth Dixon either, because that was a big guy last year.
I don't remember Kenneth Dixon.
He got hurt. Because he got hurt last year, and apparently he just hasn't.
But and that could be a reason why the pass defense looks so good there, is because they couldn't stop anyone in the running game. But I think it's an obvious start. The Bills' rushing defense is probably not going to be much better this year. I didn't see much improvements on the defense, maybe a couple draft picks, but they're not going to hit right away. So I would say start Alex Collins if you're going to start anyone from the Ravens offense.
I would just like to say that as soon as we build up the Bills,
we tear them right back down. I can't leave these positives for the Bills. I just can't find it in my heart to do that. So my sit for the week, I would argue all but James White anyway for the Patriots running backs, but I'm going to say straight up Rex Burkhead. For one, he's doing a rotation back, and this week it's been announced with James White. Who knows if Jeremy Hill gets in there. Sony Michel, questionable at this point, so who knows if he's going to get in there. So it's going to be a rotational one at that. He's against the Houston Texans, who I probably stated before that I think this game's going to be a shootout. So Burkhead may become not even in the game that much as it gets farther on. James White will be in there, getting the receiving running back stuff out there, and he's going to be someone possibly to play. But Burkhead's not going to get much opportunities if this game starts getting a really high score or the Patriots are coming back from something. And I think I personally think that's what's going to happen. So I would avoid starting Rex Burkhead this week at all costs.
In all honesty, to add on to that, Watt, merciless, Clowney, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, maybe look at James White. Maybe, if you're desperate.
In a PPR format.
PPR, if you're desperate.
Well, sticking with the AFC North.
East-North.
My fantasy wide receiver start this week is Jarvis Landry. These aren't the same Browns that have continuously struggled, and I really think that this game against the Steelers has shootout potential. I think Tyrod Taylor, he likes the dink and dunk kind of game, which is right up Jarvis Landry's alley. I think they're going to try to control the clock with the ground game, keep the Big Ben and the Killer Bees off the field, which would make sense. So to me, Jarvis Landry is definitely someone that should be on your starting lineup this week, and with a lot of confidence too. Because
plus, they're good 40 points.
Exactly. Plus, he guaranteed 40 points, and I never go against a man that guarantees 40 points. My sit this week is Marquise Goodwin for the 49ers. The main reason why I do like him in the long term, I just don't like him this week because he is traveling to Minnesota against that Vikings secondary. We know how good they are. We know what they can do to wide receivers. And at the same time, you got a healthy George Kittle. You got a healthy Pierre Garçon back. We all know that Jimmy G looked great last year, undefeated, but now he's going into hostile territory, and you can't tell me the Vikings aren't a little cheesed at the way they got knocked out of the playoffs last year. So for me, this is a defense that's probably going to be chomping at the bits to show people that they aren't the team that got blown out last year. I don't like Marquise Goodwin. In fact, I don't really like much of anybody on the 49ers offense this week. So for me, Marquise Goodwin is definitely someone that I'm keeping on the bench this week.
Really good. And then I'm going to go ahead and take it to the next one. And I'm going to go with the flex section. And with flex, I tried not to put the bigger names, maybe somebody farther down that you might be thinking of playing that you got later in the draft or something. And I coincidentally went wide receiver with both of them. So my start for the flex position of the week would be Robert Woods. They play the Rams play the Raiders on Monday night. I think they play the really late game, the one that usually goes till about midnight on the East Coast, 1 o'clock on the East Coast. Obviously, with the news of Khalil Mack getting traded, how confident for the first thing can that Raiders defense be at this point? I know a couple people are upset about that, so that's going to bring confidence down there. That's going to bring their big middle guy down. Raiders defense wasn't even that great last year, even with him in there.
Secondary was terrible.
Their second. So Robert Woods could be a surprise that pops out there. Yes, they just got Brandon Cooks in the offseason in a big trade, but he could be someone that's covered more so since he's going to be the big name there, which will leave Robert Woods open to get the long passes. He could be a surprise jump out this week at the beginning of the season. My sit of the week, and it's just because, and I think I talked him up a couple weeks ago, but it's just kind of because you don't know what you're getting from Cameron Meredith at this point. In the preseason, Traquan Smith actually outplayed him until that final game. He had a good 2-catch, 74-yard touchdown game in the final preseason game. So basically for Cameron Meredith, will he be the number 3 guy? It seems that at this point, once again, we're pretty early. We're about a week before the games actually go here. But will he even be number 3? I still don't mind him being on your roster at this point, just because he may be solid if he gets in there. But with news stories coming out that he's struggling with the offense, with his really big struggles until that 4th game of the preseason, even with them being against the Bucs D, I don't know what we're getting out of Cameron Meredith. I don't even know if he's really going to be the starter. He's not the starter. He's number 3 at least. I don't even know how much play time he's actually going to get. So be warned, I wouldn't play him this week.
All right. Well, I agree with that kind of because he's
Kind of.
well. I mean, I agree with it because he just doesn't look good. I have the tight ends. Tight ends. You don't normally think about them making a big deal, but they do.
Especially Rob Gronkowski. Who's your starter?
Yeah, I will not be putting Gronkowski or Kelsey on this because those should be obvious starts. However, my tight end to start this week, and I'm going to be making someone happy, is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I know that's a name that you probably were not going to even expect to hear this week. However, whenever you look at the fact that they played one of the worst tight end defenses last year in the New York Giants, it's going to be something, especially with the pass offense that just lost Marquise Lee. So they got either Moncrief, D.D. Westbrook, or Keelan Cole to pass to. I think they're going to bypass all that and do the dink and dunk down to the tight end. The Giants really didn't add much to that middle area of the field, and I think Blake Bortles is going to take a lot of advantage of that. So
Blake Bortles take advantage.
He'll try. But I think Seferian-Jenkins is going to be a really good start for you, especially since I don't know how high he's going in most drafts in case, he's still out there in the free agents.
Could very well be.
So look for Austin Seferian-Jenkins against this weak Giants tight end defense. My sit of the week for the tight ends is a guy that we could never believe in, and it's Jordan Reed. I like Jordan Reed. Don't get me wrong, he's a great tight end, but the problem is his issues with injuries, and he's going to be coming against an Arizona Cardinals defense that is still the Arizona Cardinals defense that we're used to. They're not a bunch of slacks that you can pass over. This is still a team that's going to be shut down on some of the passing. So, they didn't do great against tight ends last year. They were mid-pack, but I just don't believe in Jordan Reed, who Yeah. I mean, there's not
How
too
many
much to
games?
say.
He hasn't played many games in what? For 4 years, he's played probably
And-
all
and
season,
he's still
maybe in
is-
4 years.
And he's a tight end that definitely is getting drafted. Like, he's not one
Oh,
that's
yeah.
going under the radar.
When he
And-
plays, he's probably up there in the top 4 or 5 when he plays.
But I just think that Arizona's got a defense that's going to shut that down. I'm not sure how the Redskins are going to do. I mean, on our last video, I mainly was talking about Chris Thompson and possibly the young receivers just because I do not trust Jordan Reed in this game.
Right.
Fair enough.
All right, and to wrap things up, I have your start and sits for your defensive this kind of week. The number one start this week, and I'm going to make this blatantly obvious, is the Ravens defense. Going up against that Bills offense. I know we pick on the Bills, but with good reason. I mean, they have announced Nathan Peterman as the starter. Listen, how many interceptions has he thrown?
He was a rookie.
You know, he came in against the Chargers game. He had, 4 interceptions in the first
half. Yeah.
You know, and then in the AFC wildcard game, Tyrod Taylor goes out injured. Nathan Peterman comes in. His first pass is intercepted. So, you know, this could very well easily be the Ravens defense putting up 50 fantasy points off of turnovers. That offensive line is terrible. The Ravens with T-Sizzle and that defense can get after the quarterback. I just think it's going to be a long day for the Buffalo Bills. So to me, if you got them, start them with confidence. If you don't have them and they're on the waiver wire, get them and start them. The Ravens D all day. My sit of the week might actually surprise a few people, but I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a defense that still hasn't solved their middle linebacker issue after the incident with Ryan Shazier, which is unfortunate. Their secondary is still suspect at best. And again, these Browns are much improved. Tyrod Taylor does not turn the football over. They're going to ground and pound. They're going to play the dink and dunk game. I think, like I said, I think this game could honestly be a shootout. So because of that reason, I'm not really big on the Steelers defense this week. And to be honest with you, I think all season long the Steelers defense is nothing more than a spot start in the right situation. So with that being said, sit the Steelers defense this week. Do not start them. And we are the Fantasy Forecasters. This has been our start and sits for week 1. We're going to start pumping these videos out every week. So just like the Weathermen, we predict fantasy football the right way.